I wanted to take it back today. I wanted to pull it off of the internet and say that everything doesn't have to be digital, but let's start thinking about your actual store, right? So as somebody comes in, and let's go back a few years ago. I spent roughly around 9 to 10 months, um, kind of understanding how store layouts are built, right? So what works with consumer behavior, how stores break this down, and there's a real science to this, and most people don't know it, but you go through it every single time you go shopping for something. So we were breaking it down in more of a grocery store environment and understanding that. And I know I've mentioned this briefly in previous episodes, but as you walk into a grocery store, there's a ton of science that is going on with you, right? So, you need milk. It's always in the back corner. It's put there on purpose because they know that you're going to pick up a variety of other things as you're going through trying to get milk. You walk in. In the United States, we drive to the right? On the right side of the road. If you walk into a grocery store, which way do you go, Jim?
Everyone I can think of goes to the right.
Goes to the right because it's the natural flow of what we do. So we're taking you down that path, and typically there's not a whole lot of things right when you walk into a grocery store. It's called a decompression zone. So what we're trying to do is we've been outside of the store, now we're trying to figure out our proximity in the store and understand what's going on. So there's this decompression zone, and then we start to go from there. There are colors, there are sounds, there are all kinds of things that go on in a grocery store. And we're going to get into some of those tips as we go through this today. But I want to let you know that there is real science that is being played here. And if you understand this from your local business, you can use some of these tricks as well.
We are in the Strachan Van Til studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest in Hammond, Indiana, at the bottom of Lake Michigan, right on the Indiana-Illinois state line. So we probably will use some of the Strachan Van Til examples. They have 21 grocery stores in this area, and they've been a big sponsor here of what we do and of Purdue Northwest. But I've gone through this with Jeff Strack. Like, what are you guys trying to make happen when they put a new store several years ago at 30 and 41 and that big Cherville store, and I didn't get the concepts that they were going for. But one of the very first things that I noticed that was different when they opened that thing was the lighting. And he went in and started telling me about the mood of what it should be, which is a good starting off point, not just for grocery stores, but for every business.
Right. So grocery is a perfect example, and you see this in retail locations as well, right? So you walk in, and the lighting's got to be right. It's got to set the mood, right? So if you're more of an intimate restaurant or something like that, you're not going to have these extremely bright daylight type lights that are shining on you, right? The light has come down; it kind of sets the mood. You walk into a grocery store, and the first thing that you're going to start to see is the vegetables and the fruits. And those are bright colors that are stimulating your interest, right? And then you have the smells of the prepared food, right? So the bright colors and the smells of the prepared food starts to get you hungry. So if you walk in grocery store, you see these bright colors, you see or you start smelling the food, you start to end up in the middle of the grocery store where you can't smell the food. You don't necessarily see the food because it's all the packaged materials, right? But we've already stimulated that interest, right? Now I'm hungry. I'm going to grab the container of Oreos, even though I wasn't planning on that. And that kind of stimulates that. I wasn't planning on buying this, but now I'm hungry and I see this. They always say, don't go shopping when you're hungry, right? And it's because the environment actually builds on that. When you're looking at it from a retail shop, you walk in, there are many stores out there that you walk in and they have a scent to them, right? So whether it's a candle that's been lit or it's a fragrance that they have coming out, somehow, some way, there's a scent to it. And it could be in clothing, right? It sets the mood.
Children's clothing.
Children clothing.
I've been buying for the grandkids. Everywhere you go, it feels like you want to take a big bite out of one of the shelving units because it all smells so good,
right? And that's a good experience, right? So I mean, you're not going to take a bite out of a shelf, but really what you're saying is it's providing some kind of mood to me as I'm going through and shopping, right? And that is just one very, very simple thing that we do, but you set the mood. You've got to, on the last podcast, we were talking about photography and setting the mood and kind of understanding that you've got to build your photography around your brand. The same idea here is we have a scent, a look, a feel that has to work well with our brand and our store.
So you walk into a store. I know you like to use the sandwich board example.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a classic thing, but explain.
Sure. So we've talked about my old family business. Everyone wanted to put like a sandwich board outside, and you can buy those. They're not that expensive. They're typical plastic, and you put it out there and whatever, right? A lot of people may walk by it, but sandwich boards actually break up the traditional walking path that you're used to, right? So if something is sitting there, a lot of people will say, well, it's blocking the sidewalk. Well, it's blocking a portion of the sidewalk, but you're noticing that sandwich board. We took it a different level. We actually custom built a sandwich board. So we had a home decor shop back in the day, and I literally went and bought the largest picture frame that I could find. And I bought 2 of them, and then I bought a chalkboard that went under the picture frame, and then I built that into an A-frame. So it was a giant picture frame with a blackboard in it, and we would write on that, and we would set that out. Now, the thing was enormous, but it was funny how many people noticed that, and they're like, oh, I love your sign out there. It's so unique to you. And the funny part about a sandwich board, it's just a simple sign that you set out there that actually can influence roughly 15, or I should say 5 to 10% of your sales can actually be increased by just putting a board out there, right? So it's something very simple. Again, we've got scent, we've got fragrances, all these different things. We have a sandwich board that we put out there. It's driving additional people in there. So why not do it?
What was unique about yours?
It was, it set the mood, right? So it was this kind of like dark picture frame. The name was Simply Elegant, right? So the sandwich board fit the elegant lifestyle of what we were trying to accomplish.
So let's use some things that maybe aren't necessarily going to think about this. Plumbing supply. I got a buddy who owns a plumbing supply store, and even I noticed this because he just has all these plumbers coming in, and then people coming in to buy sinks and that kind of stuff. But I noticed that the sinks and everything are kind of lower on all the way around. And then right in front of your eyes is like the fixtures and the little things in boxes. And even I, not being as scientifically oriented about retail as you are, knew that needed to be switched around. Okay. That needs to be where you see it.
Right.
And then all those little fittings, they should be down low.
Right. So eye level is where most of the stuff sells from. Right. So when you look at, and we'll go back to Strax and kind of the grocery level, right, grocery store, the middle shelf or the eye level shelf is where everyone wants to be. And in grocery stores and in, large, Targets and Walmarts and like that, they're actually paying to kind of get in that space, right? So we know that if you put your product at eye level, that typically sells more than something that's on the floor or way up high, because we don't look up, we don't look down, we look eye level. And so if you have high profitable items, you have things that you want to sell, things that have been sitting for a while, make sure that they're on that eye level, because they'll move a lot faster. It's just scientifically proven.
And this example was his little faucets, which are the highest margin that he has, or one of them, are way down low in boxes. Yeah. And I'm like, just pick those up. And there was plenty of shelf space for it. In terms of samples, what do you do in your retail store?
Sure.
Let's use his example, his plumbing supply. There's not a lot of thing you can do with samples there.
So you're a plumbing supply company. If I give you free Teflon tape every time you come in, right?
There you go.
There it is, right? So Teflon tape's going to cost you nothing. But you're providing something for free. You're giving it to them. It's a sample. And what we do, human beings don't like to owe people things, right? So, if you owe somebody money or whatever it may, like, you want to get that off. It's just not a good thing. So if you provide a sample, many times people will feel obliged to actually purchase something, right? So we've given a lot of free gifts through the years, and it actually boosts the average ticket pretty significantly, right? Go to Costco. What does Costco do? They provide free samples all the time. I go to Costco and I'm the anti-sample. I just need to get in and out, right? But people go to Costco and they try samples, and what happens? They end up buying, right? They buy more than they thought they were going to buy. It's like, oh, that pizza was really good. Let's buy some of those. And now they've spent $12 on 4 pizzas in a box, right? That water was really good, and now they bought a case of water that they normally wouldn't have purchased, right? Some flavor of whatever. But human beings, if we offer you something and you take it, feel a need to give it back in some capacity. And many times, if you provide small samples in a retail environment, people will actually continue to come back over and over, and they'll provide you with additional sales.
You got the word racetrack sitting here, and always I know what we're doing in terms of our Mastering Local Marketing podcast. That's the first time I have no idea what that word means and why it's there.
Yep. So a racetrack is essentially we lead you through a store.
Oh, okay.
Right?
All right.
So you walk into a grocery store and you turn right and you go down that path, and it's impossible to get to the milk, right? They've sealed off all the ways. You can't go through the checkout to get to milk. So you have to go all the way around the racetrack. And the racetrack is kind of, a racetrack is oval. It's the outside of the store. I think the best example and the best use of a racetrack is the IKEA stores. Have you ever been to IKEA?
Oh, yeah.
Right, you go all the way up to the 3rd floor, and it is impossible to get out of an IKEA once you get all the way to the top. Right, there's these little doors everywhere that you can get through, but most people walk the entire IKEA. It takes you forever to get out of there, and it's because they've pulled you into that racetrack. Now, why do they do it? The longer you're in a store, the more likely you're going to find something that you like, right? So we lead you down that path. And, whether it's IKEA or it's a grocery store or it's your local retail, shop, basically you're leading people in a pattern. The other thing is it actually helps because you're not getting a massive influx of people in one area, right? So they're all following the same flow. Think of it like Disney World, right? So you put them into a line and they're all going through at kind of the same same movement. It works really well. The other thing with racetracks is you can lead people where you want them to go, right? So if you strategically place your racetrack, it doesn't have to be oval, but you can strategically push them into certain areas. So let's say I come into your store and I'm going along the right-hand side. Imagine I want you to come back into the middle of the store, and then I want you to go to the back corner of the store. I can literally create these aisles along the way that will lead you down that path. So maybe something or some area in your store is not selling, the products just aren't selling in that area. You can actually manipulate your store to start sending more people to that area, lift the products to eye level and a variety of other things, but that's an easy way to use the science behind it to sell more.
What about the science at the checkout?
Oh, the checkout's always fun. I know we've talked about this in the past, but a lot of purchases happen at the checkout. And, whether you're at a grocery store and you're buying, a Coke or Pepsi or some kind of fruit
Hershey's
juice or
bar.
Hershey's bar, some gum. I bought some gum this week. Purchases happen there, and they're not planned, right? So they're complete impulse purchases. And maybe you make an extra $2, you make an extra $10, or even an extra $20, right? You see this all the time. So go to any retail location. You'll notice that there's stuff there, right? Some of the best ones, my daughter does a lot of crafting, and she'll go to like a Joann Fabrics, or you go, the Kohl's that we have right by us has this massive way for you to go to checkout, and it is completely lined with everything from soap to
Dick's is big on that
yeah,
too. Dick's
right.
Sporting Goods.
So look at what they're doing. They're doing it on purpose because you're waiting in line, you're looking at all the stuff, and you may grab something else, and that's an extra $5, $10 that you're spending. It's adding to your average ticket.
Matt Hansen is a clinical professor at PNW, and I own the local radio stations and the local streaming video. And I took his classes to get my MBA, and now here we are doing a podcast. One of the things that I get from you wanting to do this and talk directly to local businesses is, obviously the digital and the social media and that kind of stuff. And now we're talking about physical plants and, what is your actual physical location, whether you're a home furnishing, whether you're selling parts, whatever it might be. The science can still apply to that. It still is always us having basically 100 people that we deal with. We're still coming back to trying to dispel the illusion that digital and physical location marketing is too expensive, too complicated, and overwhelming.
Right.
And here we are 14 episodes in. Do you feel like we're able to pull back the curtain a little bit yet?
I hope we are. I mean, we're providing a lot of insight, a lot of things that I've learned through the 25 plus years of working in marketing, but not everything is expensive. Everyone always says, oh, it's too expensive, it's too hard, it's too this. And I think what we're trying to show is today we're talking about science and locations, but that doesn't take a genius to understand it. I mean, we're not doing regression analysis or anything here to kind of understand all of this. We're literally just telling you that sense and lighting and even putting, if you have a product that sells a lot, put a testimonial right next to it from somebody that buys it all the time, just to provide the social proof, but in a real world. What's that going to take? 5 minutes to go print out on your printer and then put it on something, in a frame or whatever right next to the product? What's that cost you? Maybe $5, $10 to do? And now people see that and they're like, oh, this person loves this product. I'm going to, check it out. It's not hard. It's really not hard. And I think everyone for 25 years has always said, I would love to have you doing my marketing. And what I always said is, I would love to do it for you, but we need to figure out a way to do this, right? And I think this podcast, even though we do short snippets, if you get one thing out of this today, it's so much more valuable than what you had coming in.
And I would say two things on this one. One is that just look at your store. Look at it. Is it eye level? What is the feeling when you come in? Do you have people going all the way over to the left? Your lighting. Right. People don't think about it. A lot of people put lighting in 25 years ago and they just changed bulbs. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of upgrades on making it more cozier in restaurants especially and in retail locations. And then the second thing would be just what you said. It's not that hard. No. You just have to pay attention, and you can do a lot of it yourself without paying Matt Hansen exorbitant rates to come in and do all your marketing for you.
I mean, just take one
and
example.
That is a joke. He's really cheap.
Yeah, I'm not too bad.
Yeah.
But, that's what I'm saying is take one thing from each episode and go back and implement it. By the time you're done, I mean, our plan is to do 100 episodes this year. So you'll have 100 tips by the time we're done with this at the end of the year that you can literally implement that are going to cost you relatively nothing.
And it's all an attitude. It's like if you want to make yourself more, you want to make more money, you want to improve your marketing, you have to have that attitude first. If you're just listening and you're like, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that, then you might be wasting your time, to be honest with you. You have to have that open mind.
Right.
Hey, man, thanks a lot, like always.
Thanks for having us. Let's, let's close it out.
Where can they like us or watch us?
I would recommend going any of your favorite podcasts. We're on all of the systems at this point. If you're interested, you can head over to YouTube as well. So it's just at Mastering Local Marketing. Check us out there. You can see the full video from there. But, check us out and see, by the end of the year, you'll have 100 new tips if you take one thing from each episode.
There it is. Until next time, see you later.